So we're going to be talking about plots in books. And there are plots in movies and there are plots in books. And a plot is talking about in the story. Well, first of all, does anyone know what a plot is? It's a pretty adult word. Bella, do you know what a plot is?
Plot is a thing.
It's not really a thing. It is, but it isn't. So a plot is, when you read a story, there's a beginning part of the story. There's a middle part of the story. And then there's an end part of the story. And that's the plot of what happens in the book. So if I were to get my favorite book out, we'll do a little quack after. My favorite book, right? We talked about the giving tree. What happens in the beginning of the giving tree? What happens at the beginning of the giving tree?
Could you read it?
What is it that happens in the beginning of the book? Do you remember?
No.
What happens at the beginning of the book?
He likes the tree.
Who likes? Who's the character? The boy. And does the tree like the boy? Yeah, and so what do they do in the beginning of the story? They play. So that's the beginning of the story. Stop check. I'm hearing a lot of wrestling around in our chairs. Settle ourselves right down. So the beginning of the story's plot is that the boy and the tree love each other and they like to play together. In the middle of the story, it gets a little harder, but sometimes I go from the beginning to the end. What happens at the end of the book? What happens at the end of the book? I've got two friends who are really listening. Thank you, my friend. What happens at the end of the book?
The man cuts down the tree.
What what happens? The total end, what happens?
He sits on the stamp.
Because
He's
he's an what?
an old man.
He's an old man. And the tree says, I have nothing left to give to you but a place to sit. And that's really what the old man was looking for. So we've got what happens at the beginning. We've got what happens in the end. But in the middle of the book, there's a lot of things that happen. So what kind of happens in the middle of the book? What happens in the middle of the book?
The man gets old.
Okay, the boy gets older and becomes an adult. I love that. And he starts to what?
Cuts down the tree.
He starts to want some money. And so he cuts down the tree and he goes away and he sells the apples and he goes away. And he just kind of keeps leaving the tree. And that's what happens in the middle of the book, right? Until there's nothing left of the book. Self-check, the tree. So, in the beginning of the story, the boy and the tree love each other and they play together every day. In the middle of the story, the boy becomes a man and he wants things, right? And he takes the apples, he takes the branches, he takes the trunk. And at the end of the story, he's very old and he just wants a place to rest and the tree has that to give him because he's only a stump. That's the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and the end of the story. Now, did I tell every single detail of the story? But like I read the book? No, I don't tell every single thing because then it would not be, the plot would be exactly what happens. Stop check. Okay, so let's think about Little Quack. Okay, in the beginning of the story for Little Quack, what happens? Well, let's read the story and we'll find out, and then we'll go back to it. Could you turn me off, please, Ellie?